I just filmed a video about how a blind 4'6" protester here in Portland, Oregon was dragged by 6 body armed federal ICE agents here in Portland, Oregon. And as I was reading through the article and talking about it, I was reminded of this piece that came out, I think it was yesterday, in the Migrant Insider. And this is also a conversation that's been going around on social media for a week or so. In the past few weeks, before this article came out, I had seen a number of videos like this one.
Do you work for ICE? Well then, it's time to retain a criminal defense attorney. You and your friends have been getting away with a lot of crimes lately, and you probably feel safe now, but in your heart of hearts, you know this isn't gonna last, and you know they don't have your back. So, before all your friends hire up all my colleagues and I, get yourself an attorney. Reach out to my office at 1-800-COME-MIERDA.
Now, let's remember that ICE agents are wholly unqualified, ill-trained, lots of Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. We've heard reports that they're having trouble not only recruiting for ICE, but the guys who apply cannot pass the physical fitness tests. Despite this giant influx of tens of billions of our taxpayer dollars into the American Gestapo, we're seeing that these guys are just like... They're kind of like the fail sons of law enforcement, right? They're the guys who can't get a job in any legitimate branch of law enforcement. And so they apply to ICE and they don't know what they're doing. So I'm sure they believe that they can do whatever they want. And maybe they've even heard like, oh, y'all have qualified immunity. And maybe they think that means that they can do anything they want to American citizens and even more to immigrants. And just like get away with it. They think it's a get out of jail free card. Yeah, that's not what qualified immunity means. So the title of this piece that came out yesterday in the Migrant Insider is entitled Goldman to ICE, You Are Not Immune from Prosecution. This is by Pablo Manriquez, and it's about how Dan Goldman, who is a New York congressman, is demanding that NYPD crack down on law-breaking federal agents. On Thursday, Rep. Dan Goldman, Democrat from New York, sent a blistering letter to the NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch. Just a reminder that Jessica Tisch is part of the oligarchy. Her daddy's a billionaire worth more than $10 billion. Her family owns hotels, an insurance business, and an NFL team. Just want to chant no war but the class war here. Anyway, Jessica Tisch, the NYPD commissioner, received a letter from Dan Goldman urging strict enforcement of state and local laws against DHS agents, especially ICE, who overstep their authority through unlawful arrests, violent detentions, or other illegal conduct. I've been waiting for this. Why have we not seen more of this? I kind of understand why we haven't, because local and state law enforcement has been hesitant to engage in what they see as an escalation, right? To stand up against ICE. They don't want those kind of conflicts out in the open, and American citizens and immigrants are paying the price of ICE getting away with violating our rights on a regular basis all around this country, and local and state law enforcement just like letting it happen, right? So Goldman's letter sharply condemned outrageous and unlawful conduct by DHS officers, particularly ICE and Border Patrol in New York City and nationwide, citing credible reports and video footage of agents violently arresting U.S. citizens, lawfully residing immigrants. He cited multiple cases where ICE officers forcibly detained Americans and in some instances unlawfully deported them, plain violations of our constitutional rights. I was talking about this as early as April, y'all, when at that point in time we knew of at least 10 American citizen children that had been illegally, it's not deported, you can't deport an American citizen. They were exiled from their own nation. Nobody cared because they were brown kids. American citizens who were kicked out of this country in an egregious violation of their constitutional rights. ICE's own policy makes it clear agents cannot assert civil immigration enforcement authority over U.S. citizens. Yet under the Trump administration regime, according to Goldman in his letter, there have been dozens of credible reports, some recorded on video, showing the agency doing exactly that with violence and impunity. Goldman's letter calls for NYPD officers to be trained and equipped to arrest and prosecute federal agents who break state laws, emphasizing a crucial legal reality. Federal officers, including ICE agents, are not immune from prosecution when they break the law. Well, some have tried to argue that ICE agents can't be held accountable under state law and that the supremacy clause or qualified immunity puts them above prosecution. Goldman decisively rejects this myth. I've seen other attorneys and legal experts agree with him. Immunity doctrines strictly protect lawful acts within an officer's official duties, but those protections vanish when agents exceed their legal authority. If they operate beyond authority or engage in unconstitutional acts, they are not shielded from prosecution. That's why the lawyer whose video that I referenced at the beginning here, that's what he was saying, like, ICE agents, y'all better get yourself a lawyer. ICE agents are either too arrogantly stupid or they're ignorant of the law, or they believe that the Trump regime will be around forever, so they will never face justice for what they're doing now. That would be a losing bet. That would be a poor choice on their part. I know lots of people have said they look forward to our version of the Nuremberg trials. I don't think it will be that, because the International Criminal Court, we choose not to put ourselves under their jurisdiction. But there has to be a day of accountability. These fuckers are breaking the law. They're violating our rights. They deserve due process for the crimes of which they will be accused, right? They're denying all of us due process, but as AOC says, we either have rights for all of us or we don't have rights at all. There needs to be a day of due process for all of these guys. It actually doesn't have to come in the future. It should in the future when they face federal charges, but Goldman is saying in his letter here that ICE right now today is subject to New York criminal statutes, including serious charges like felony assault. Y'all, we have seen so many videos here in Portland. We've seen it in Chicago of ICE agents clearly engaging in assault, clearly assaulting unarmed protesters and causing them serious bodily harm. Goldman hammers home in his letter, no badge grants impunity. If federal agents break state law, they face arrest and prosecution just as an ordinary citizen would. The Supreme Court and federal courts have repeatedly affirmed immunity only applies to lawful acts, not to abuses of power or violations of constitutional and statutory rights. Goldman goes on to say that the Trump regime is failing to conduct federal oversight, and therefore the NYPD must intervene and uphold the rule of law even against federal agents. No person, regardless of their badge, should be permitted to assault or unlawfully detain any New Yorker without facing the consequences. Goldman goes on to call for immediate training and guidance for NYPD ahead of any future ICE operations in New York City. He ended by demanding a prompt reply from Tisch and reaffirming the city's duty to protect its residents from unlawful federal law enforcement tactics. What do y'all think about this? What do you think about this? He has a very valid point. The federal government wants to trample on our rights. The federal government is anxious to see the erosion of the rule of law and the institution of an authoritarian regime where Donald Trump's brown shirts, ICE, are able to operate entirely outside of the law without consequences, where they can violate your rights and your body and take away your freedom however they want, whenever they want, and not face any consequences, not face any justice for what they're doing. So what is the role here for local and state law enforcement? What is the duty of state and local law enforcement to protect citizens? What do you think about this? What are the ups and downs of pressuring law enforcement to uphold the law? Do you think this is something that we could see states doing, and what could happen as a result? At the very least, I mean, I have lots of issues with Dan Goldman, but at the very least, I really appreciate him clearly articulating, again, this is not normal. This should not be normalized. What they're doing is illegal. They're breaking the law. They need to be held accountable. Republicans were the party up until very, very recently, the party of states' rights. It's all about states' rights. We can't have a big federal government infringing upon our rights. And now we see them being like, do whatever you want, ICE. Trample all over every state. It's suddenly big, powerful, authoritarian executive at the federal level. It's suddenly like, let's make a king out of Donald Trump. The same party that was small federal government, states' rights, is now a full-blown party of destroy the Constitution and the Republic and install Donald Trump as king with his private security force that can do whatever they want to us without being questioned or challenged or held accountable. What do y'all think about that?